Great, so we're live. So hi everyone, it's Fiona here from Move Nourish Believe, and today I'm lucky enough to chat to the inspirational doctor in Chinese medicine, an acupuncturist, author, speaker, and all-round natural fertility doctor, Nat Krangutis, who is known for making women's hormones happier than a Pharrell Williams song. Nat's given up her time today to bring some much needed clarity on issues surrounding the pill, which is one of the biggest debates in women's health. So if you're lucky enough to see Nat talk at many of her debunking events, you'll know just how incredible she is at breaking down and balancing our hormones. So good morning, Nat. Thank you so much for being with us. We're so thrilled to have you on board, and we get asked quite a lot of questions on the blog about the pill, so we're very excited to have a quick chat with you. So I'd love to know, in your own words, if you could tell us what is the pill? What is it?
Well, you know what's funny? First of all, thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure to be able to share information with, well, anyone that will listen. But when, people, there's a reason to listen if it's something that's resonating with so many women being on the pill. It is a big issue because, the pill was designed to be a contraceptive method, yet it's utilised to treat almost every hormone imbalance, from acne through to missing periods. And really what it does is it takes our hormones offline, and that's where I have great concern, because so many women are potentially taking the pill and not really knowing what it's actually doing, but assuming that it's safe because everybody else is doing it. And so, yeah, essentially that's what the pill does. It stops our hormones from doing what they ordinarily would be doing.
Right. So we have a lot of people within our community that take the pill every day, that have done for a very long time. Ask the question, bad for me? Is it bad for us?
Well, look, I think it's not necessarily an ideal long-term solution. I think to say that look, I only see the people in my clinic that have massive issues from being on the pill. And sure, there are people out there who cruise along very happily on the pill. Having said that, they're usually the same people that say to me when they come off it, I didn't know what it was to feel like me. Like, I didn't know this is how good I could feel, because they've been on it for a really long time. So I guess, look, as a contraceptive method, it's useful. It obviously prevents us from falling pregnant. It's not as effective as we're necessarily led to believe. There's very strict circumstances that make it effective that's not told to us as well. Weight, environment, so many things come into play. I don't think it's a great thing for us to be taking, but I think also that if we can make informed choices, I'm not really here to tell people what's right or wrong for them. I want them to kind of work out what feels good for them to do. And if it's something that feels right, well, hey, I'm not here to judge anybody. I just want people to have correct information. So I wouldn't say it's an ideal thing, and I wouldn't say it's a long-term solution. Definitely if it's treating a condition. As a contraceptive method, I think there's some other ways that are equally as effective. Not everybody's cup of tea, but there are alternatives, certainly.
Excellent. Well, because you are also the queen of, being natural as well, we have a love for health and our ability to MNB. We're very, very about gut health and nutrients. Yeah. So we wanted to know, what's your experience with the pill and gut health? Does it affect it?
I think that's where I think that's where the issue is, that it really does affect our gut health, and that's where the core of the problem is for me. So many women have already a poor constitution, and then you add something like the pill to the body, and all of a sudden it's not absorbing nutrients properly. Therefore, we dip into our nutrient and vitamin stores, so they're not able to either be topped up either, because the pill's robbing that. So, when a woman comes off the pill, very often they are extremely depleted. But sometimes what also happens is, partway along a woman's journey on the pill, all of a sudden their body, it's almost like it starts to cave in, and all these symptoms start to show up that they've never had before. And they'll say to me, oh, but it's been fine for X amount of years, and all of a sudden it's like the back end of my body's fallen out of me, and the body can only do so much. And at a certain time, I find it very often that the pill starts to become an issue. You know, there's things like spotting or digestive issues, or all of a sudden women start to break out, or whatever that might be. But the body generally starts to tell us when it's not working anymore.
Exactly. Well, you know, we have a lot of girls that talk about coming off the pill and not feeling right, so they go back on the pill to feel normal again. So what would your advice be for people who are wanting to feel normal without, you know, going back to the pill? Would they need a bit more time to kind of let their body figure out what it's doing and how they feel?
Yeah, it's really tricky. I think, look, if you've gone on the pill to fix a problem and you've done nothing else in your world but take the pill to fix the problem, it's fair to say when you come off, the problem's going to be there tenfold. So, you know, if that's happening, say acne, for example, someone goes on the pill because they've got terrible acne, their skin clears up whilst they're on it, it's fabulous. They decide to come off, their acne comes back because they haven't done anything about their diet or their lifestyle to actually treat the problem. So, you know, often you're going to feel pretty terrible when you come off it because nothing's changed. Whereas if you can start to do different things, I definitely find that you can transition someone very happily off the pill. And, you know, very often the symptoms start to occur around 3 months after somebody comes off. It's not always straight away. But again, using those signs and symptoms as signs, you know, what's my body communicating to me? Why is this happening? There's always a reason. And looking at the alternative that is a long-term solution rather than the pill that's not really going to fix it, I would say is, you know, my ideal scenario.
Excellent. Well, we did want to ask you a few hard-hitting questions that we did have. We hear that the pill can protect you against some cancers. So from someone in a clinical experience, we wanted to know, is this true?
In theory, apparently, but because of everything else that it's doing, I don't think that is an advantage, you know, in the long run. And there's also not enough evidence to suggest that that's actually a solid truth. Like everything, when it comes down to research, it sort of is very often swayed to whatever we're trying to present as a valid argument. So, look, you know, the idea is that the pill's supposed to prevent certain uterine cancers. Having said that, it increases our chances of breast cancer tenfold. I wouldn't be utilising that as a security blanket of why someone's taking the pill. And, you know, we know that the whole idea is we get put on the pill to protect our bone density, and that's not really the way that it works either. So, you know, we're told all of these things, yet if we actually start to scratch, you know, a little bit deeper, we find that that's not always the case. And I think, you know, trying to steer our bodies back to wellness is what we're always trying to do. So if you are on the pill, then there's so much you can do to try and support your body. It's not like, you know, it's a diabolic situation. I think, you know, nutrition and lifestyle always has to come into it. But like I said, and keep saying, it's not necessarily the long-term solution.
That's right. But do you think many people that do come to see you, do they take nutrition, you know, into account when they're on the pill? Or
so many people,
do they use the pill more so like as a delayed?
Sorry, what was that last bit that you said? It is delayed, but all good, go.
With a lot of people that come to see you in clinic, do they take nutrition into account more so than, you know, what they're using the pill for? Or do you find that a lot of people use the pill as a band-aid effect for, you know, acne or hormone therapy or contraception, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, women take it for such a broad range. Yeah, women take it for such a broad range of reasons. I think what I find in clinic is that I mean, you know, again, I see such a variety of complaints, but so many women don't actually understand how important nutrition is. And people say to me all the time, really, is it that important? Like, seriously, is it that important? Can't I just take a pill or a tablet or something to fix that? And it doesn't work like that at all. We're living at a time where, like we've said, our gut health is so average, if not well under average, and then adding more things to it to make it worse is that's part of the reason why we're seeing ourselves in such a pickle with fertility and hormones and things like PCOS and endometriosis and all of these hormone imbalances they're lifestyle illnesses. And that's what they are, you know. And I get myself in a little bit of trouble sometimes by saying that, but I firmly believe that our diet and lifestyle has led us to this point. So, look, you know, some people get how important nutrition is and they'll come to me and they'll say, I've done everything else and here's the last thing, I need to transition off the pill. And others will come in to me and say, I've got no idea, please educate me. So, you know, I think, look, the awareness is out there and a lot more people are talking and thinking about it, which I think is fantastic. And it's just creating that healthy conversation to get clued up as to, you know, what are you putting in your body exactly and what's it actually doing and what are the advantages and what are the disadvantages.
Yeah, we think it's really important, and, you know, that's the reason why we wanted to do a bit of a talk on the pill, because we have so many people asking, you know, these questions to us as well, and we don't have all the answers. Certainly, we don't have people coming in and out. So it's just such a great way that, you know, we're talking about it, and that's why we love what you do at all of your events as well. So we also wanted to know, it's quite a silly question, but the pill has kind of been, you know, known for having an effect on personality. So, you know, if you're someone who's been on the pill for about 10 years, you know, does it mean that we're not being the real us as such?
You know what it does? We've got receptors that tell us how we can meet a suitable person, because not everybody matches, right? Like, you know, we don't all fit each other, and so we've got receptors, and we've got couplins, these certain receptors that are in our nose, and it actually changes our receptors. So very often women come into me and I'll tell them this and they'll look horrified, because they'll be like, does that mean I'm going to stop loving my partner or my husband? And I'm like, well, maybe not, but it does alter our senses and our ability to even down to the way that we love. You know, you know what makes me laugh about the pill the most? I think it's hilarious. It crushes our libido, yet it's a contraceptive method. I'm like, well, that works. You know, if we don't want to be intimate with our partner, it's like, wow, there you go, like, you know. But it really does. It alters our senses, and it does. Women do tend to see the world more black and white. They're on the pill. That their emotions aren't as strong as if they're off it. There's a lot of research around that to confirm that too.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and yes, a very redundant method, I must say. Well, I think that's all the time that we have for Nat. Thank you so much for coming on board and speaking to us, and you can find out even more information on the pill. We've got a full interview. Head to movenourishbelieve.com. I'll stop the broadcast now, Nat.